pose I was giving Nicole was the rolled, it can be a rolled blanket, it can be a rolled towel. I like my little one for this, but sometimes you want more height. And you just roll it at the bottom of the shoulder blades and then bring the arms out wide. And then you can extend the legs long. And you may have something else in your house, like I'll show you something funny I have that works for this. These are door stoppers. They work for a couple of good things, but this could be a nice thing for this pose too. Oh yeah, it feels good because it has those some kind of little beads in it. And the other thing that's nice about this too is laying the full spine on it. It's nice to occasionally put under your neck, because what you can do is you can actually give some length in the neck with something like this. Oh gosh, we could do that with a towel too and a belt. And then the other nice thing about this little door stopper, and I'm sure that in a country where it's cold, not in Guam, but in a country where it's cold, somebody would sell these, but it also works as heel support whenever you do a squat. So that can be really a useful little prop. So there's my FYI today. Hello, Leonardo. So anyway, I'm going to use it for my chest opener. And then you can really start to bring the breath into the armpits and up into the upper chest. And the little quote I was thinking about today is, "You're the one that you're waiting for." I'll say it again. You are the one that you are waiting for. So you can let that permeate through your practice. I'll try to remember it at the end as well when we're doing Shavasana, because often maybe something new will open up for you as you practice this. So just check in with the breath, notice what it's doing. And you may want to focus maybe on the side body, the side ribs as you breathe. You may want to focus on the upper chest. And you can just notice where perhaps you don't feel the breath moving. And see if you can bring a bit of smoothness in the breath. And also allowing with the breath, not that you're forcing anything, but as you pay attention, you might start noticing that you can breathe more into an area that maybe you don't breathe so much into. A lot of exhale stopper works in many different poses. And this is something that in a colder country, because you use these like at your doors, you can purchase them probably. This was from a trade aid store, a fair trade type of store. So you never know what you might find that works as a good yoga prop. So now just take a couple of breaths to release the pose. So take your blanket or whatever you're using away and come back to the feet on the floor, knees bent and palms down next to you. And then you can either bring the hands underneath the head or you can keep them down, or if you want more challenge, you can bring them overhead. And we'll inhale the knees to the chest, extend through the back of the legs, exhale, bring it down. And I do this pose in most sessions to wake up the abdominals, but it's also a good sort of checking in pose. You might notice how the backs of your legs are today. You might notice how your core support is today. And essentially, it's not going to put a challenge on your back. So that's what's really nice about this pose, because some of the abdominal poses can challenge your lower back. So you want to make sure that you're not going deeper into those patterns, because what we're trying to do is have core support so that we actually have good back support as well. So the core supports the back body. And if you want to change your arm position in this pose, you can bring them overhead or you can hold the elbows. And it's good to experiment with your arms to see what works well for you. And I hadn't even thought about interlocking the fingers and bringing them overhead, but hey, there's another option. So there's many ways to engage the arms in this pose. And then do 2 more. And then bring the feet down and bring the arms down. And you can press into the heels and release the lower back. Just shake out the hips if there's any challenge there. So now we are going to do a more challenging one. So again, you've got the choice with your arms to have them down next to you or under your head. We're going to do some straight-legged leg raises. Now here, you need to do what works for your body. So it's really good to have straight legs. And your range for this pose can be very small, or you can have a range where you bring them down, hover, and then bring it up. And you can play with how long you want to hover the heels towards the floor. And also, you know, have a rest if you can come up to 90 degrees, but the other thing is you can just do them continuously on the exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. Now you can also play with the breath here and go inhale down, exhale up, inhale down, exhale up, inhale down, exhale up. And do 2 more with whatever breath, whatever arms you want to do. And then release the legs again. You can bring the feet down, knees bent, and shake out the pelvis or the lower back. And then you can just roll over to your side and come up to all fours. And we'll go ahead and tuck the toes under, bring the elbows down, and you can do a little back stretch and armpit stretch by bringing the forehead on the forearms or on the biceps. And you can play with pressing through those toes and really reaching the sit bones back. You can also walk the elbows a little more forward and then come back. Maybe that gives you more of a stretch. And then inhale, come up and bring the hands underneath the shoulders. We'll do cat and dog. arch, or they call it cat and cow a lot, but I still like to call it the dog tilt in the pelvis. So exhale, rounding the spine, really press into the hands. Inhale and exhale. And inhale. So you try to find as much length as you can between all the vertebrae here. So you're really drawing with your tailbone and your head. And I'm making this curve in both ends of the body. So they come in one direction to meet each other, then they go into the other direction to meet each other. And then bring that back to neutral. And you might want to walk the hands out about a hand width, because it's nice to practice downward dog with a very long downward dog. And then tuck the toes under and come into a downward facing dog. Now this is another place where my little door stopper comes in handy, because I could use it for my heels to really press down. So the point of downward dog isn't to necessarily get your heels on the floor, but it's really to engage the front thighs so that the weight is in the legs more so that the sit bones are up to the ceiling, and you're really, you're out of your shoulders. You're not coming forward and bringing all that weight into your shoulders. So this door stopper is a great thing for my heels in this pose. And then bring those knees down and go into big toes together, knees wide. And you can come into it by really lengthening through those sit bones. So you get that full length through the head and the tail again. And maybe you'll get some stretch through the armpit area. And then inhale, come up again, tuck the toes under, and come into a downward facing dog. Now inhale that right knee forward. This is where having two blocks can come in handy. See if you can bring it between your hands. And again, that door stopper actually comes in handy for my heel. And really press that back thigh up and bring the hands onto the front thigh into warrior one pose. Or sometimes they call it lunge warrior. And if you're feeling stable in the legs, inhale the arms up. And then you can bring the hands back down and bend that knee. You can hold it here for a little bit more abdominal work, and then bring that heel back to back into downward facing dog. And then bend that left leg in. You can have a little pause here to feel that abdominal work. And then bring that foot between your hands. And then really lift the back thigh. And you can bring the hands onto the front thigh. And really extend through that back leg. And if you want to bring the arms up, you can. And then exhale the hands down. Bring that left foot back and come into downward dog. And then bring the knees down and go into big toes together, knees wide. And then inhale, come up again to tabletop, and then tuck the toes under, really lift those sit bones up into downward facing dog. And you can always modify if you don't want to stay in downward facing dog as long as we do. You can always take a break, big toes together, knees wide. So for the next one, you're going to take the left foot and pivot it so that the heel, the toes are in front of the heel. Then you're going to bend that right leg between the hands. So now you've got the heels lined up, and you're really going to press into both legs. So see if you can find that strength in the legs so that you can inhale coming up, bringing the upper body up into Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2 pose. And then to come out of it, you pivot around, leave that back foot there, and then you can pivot that heel around and bring that right leg back into down dog. And then we'll take that right foot and pivot it so that the toes are in front of the heel. Then bend the left leg between your hands. You're lining the heels up. You're really pressing into the feet. The back leg, you're really pressing into the outer ridge of the foot, so that then you can just fly up with the upper torso and the arms into Virabhadrasana 2. And then windmill the arms back. You can pivot that heel back and then bring that leg up, and you're in downward dog, and then bend the knees down, big toes together, knees wide, couple breaths in Adho Mukha Virasana, forward facing hero pose. And then inhale, slowly come up. You're on all fours again. Tuck the toes under into downward facing dog. And again, you're going to take that left foot and pivot the heel down so the toes are in front of the heel. And then you're going to bring that right foot between the hands so the heels line up. And then you're really going to press into the feet, bring the forearm onto the thigh, and come into Parsvakonasana. And again, many options with the arms, straight up and over, or a nice one is to bring it behind you and find that outer hip, and then you get some stretch through the shoulder. So a couple of options for the arm. And then slowly bring the arms down, pivot that heel back, lift that right knee, come back into downward facing dog. And then pivot that right foot so the heel's down. And then bring the knee, lift the knee, bring the foot between the hands. So now your heels are all lined up. Again, press through the base of the lower body there, forearm on the thigh. Arm can come up straight, up and over, or behind to hold that outer hip. then you can slowly pivot around the thigh. Lift the back heel up. Bring that left foot back into down dog. And then big toes together, knees wide. Couple of breaths here. And then inhale, slowly come up to all fours. Tuck the toes under, downward facing dog. And then you're gonna pivot that left heel down again. Bring the right foot between the hands. This time you're gonna line that front heel up with the instep. And then you're gonna slowly straighten the front leg and come into Utthita Trikonasana extended triangle pose. So essentially the legs are really there, and you don't even have to rest the arms anywhere because it's all in the legs. Or you can softly place the right hand on the right shin or thigh. And then to come out of the pose, you bend the front leg, pivot that back heel, and bring the right leg back into downward dog. And then take that right heel and place it down. So you've got a diagonal in that foot. You're gonna bring that left knee between the hands. You're gonna line the heel up with the instep. That's what makes this different than the warrior poses. And then you're slowly gonna straighten that front leg. So you got the power in the legs, and then all you have to do is line the torso up. Utthita Trikonasana, extended triangle pose. Then bend that front leg, hands down, lift the heel up, bend that knee, come back to downward dog, and then come into big toes together, knees wide, a couple of breaths there. So those standing poses really bring some heat into the body. And now we're gonna have a little play with some of the baby back bends, which are so good for strengthening the muscles on the back of the spine. You have a couple of options with the resting pose. You can have the head in neutral, the hands down, making a pillow with the forehead, or you can turn the ear and look to one side. But if you have any neck issues, it's a good idea to have the head neutral. So the first one we're gonna do is Sphinx pose. So you're gonna place the forearms down. You've got the hands on the mat. Now your legs are engaged, so your lower body is really stable and there's action going on down there. It's not on holiday. And then you pull that mat. It's like you're pulling that mat towards you so you can lift the chest through, looking forward. But again, don't just throw the neck out. Just look forward for now. And then slowly come down and place the forehead on your hands and really breathe into that back body. And this time we're going to play with cobra pose, but we're also going to play with the hand positions here, so you can see what that might do for you. So first, place the fingers pointing out. So they're under the shoulders, but the fingers are pointing out, and then slowly press up You can still bring the elbows in. And then slowly come down and turn the fingers in and then slowly press up. That's going to be a little bit different in the chest and in the shoulders. And then slowly come down and then have the fingers facing forward. You're really going to tuck the elbows in and then inhale, coming up. Keep that chest lifted and then slowly come down. Make a pillow with your hands and a couple of breaths here. And then have your legs hip width, your arms shoulder width. And you're going to inhale, lift the right arm and the left leg up in the head. Exhale down. Left arm, right leg, head. Exhale down. Right arm, left leg, head. Exhale down. Left arm, right leg, head. Exhale down. Now you're going to keep the upper body on the floor and just inhale, lift the legs off. And then slowly bring them down. And then really keep the bottom half on the floor and inhale the arms and the head up. And then exhale down. And then take an inhale and an exhale. And an inhale, and on your next, let's see, and then take another exhale. And then on your next inhale, lift them all up. Keep breathing though, don't hold the breath. And then slowly come down, place the forehead on your hands, and a couple of breaths there. And now we'll go into full locust pose, Salambhasana. Try to bring the feet and the ankles together so you have one leg like the cobra tail. And then we're going to start by really reaching those fingertips out next to you. So see if you can really feel how those fingertips connect into the shoulder blade. And that you can roll the shoulders down. And then you can start walking the hands down a little bit. And then inhale the legs off the floor, and then the head, the chest, and the arms up. Couple of breaths. And then slowly come down, make a pillow with your hands, and a couple of breaths there to really breathe into that whole backside body. Because you have your belly on the floor, so it sort of pushes the breath into the back of the body. And now we're going to go into bow pose, and we're going to do a variation. So we're going to have a little play with this. We're going to do that side variation. So see how you go. You don't have to do the variation. You can just do bow. So bring the heels up towards your sit bones and hold your feet or hold your ankles. When you really want to make sure that you're evenly on the floor here, you're going to kick the feet up and really kick the shins towards the wall behind you. And if you want to do the variation, roll to one side. You're still keeping that stretch. You can come down if you don't want to do the variation and have a rest. And then you come back through the center and you roll to the other side. And then you come back through the center and then slowly come down. We'll have a rest and we'll play with that one again. But you don't have to do the variation if it doesn't work in your body. So have a few breaths here. So these baby back bends start to really work our heart rate. So it's really good for our aerobic capacity. So now bring those heels towards your sit bones. Find your feet, either holding your feet below the toes or holding the ankles. And then you're going to press the shins to the wall behind you. I'm going to change directions this time. I'm going to go this side first, and then roll through the center and roll to the other side, looking over the top shoulder, and then back through the center, and then slowly come down and press your hands under your shoulders, and then just wiggle your way back into a child's pose. And you can either stack the hands for your forehead, or you can bring your forehead down and your arms next to you. You can even take your hands onto the backs of your heels if that feels good. You're just trying to go into that C curve with the head and the tail here, just releasing anything in the back. And then come up and lay on your back. We'll just do a little one kind of twist. There's many twists from laying on your back. We're going to straighten the legs out. I'm going to bend the left leg first, bring the foot into the inner thigh, take the right hand to the left knee, and then put some pressure on that thigh towards the floor. And I'm getting some stretch in the lower back, in the side waist, into the hips. But try to maintain that opposite shoulder down on the floor. And then inhale, slowly bring that knee up, straighten that leg out, really press through the heel. Toes are up to the ceiling, and then bend the right leg in, take the left hand, and keep the right arm out so the shoulder's on the floor, and then you just take the weight of that hand and you can really press that outer thigh towards the floor. And then inhale, coming up. And then you can either go straight into Shavasana. You can do feet up the wall with support under your hips, or you can put your feet on a chair, whichever Shavasana variation works for you today. So whatever pose you're in, you want to find the support and comfort that works for you today. And if you do feet up the wall, it's a really great pose to hold for 10 minutes, even longer. 20 minutes can be really luxurious and feet up the wall, and it can be a great recovery pose. When I broke my wrist a couple of years ago, I started my yoga practice and I'd end it in feet up the wall, and for the first couple of days I fell asleep. So I knew I was a little trying to unwind from the trauma of breaking the wrist. So that was really interesting.
So just become aware of your toes. Can you feel all 10 toes have space in them? And then the bones in your feet becoming spacious. And they're really inhabiting the skin of your foot. And see if you can feel your ankle bones and your heel bone, and how that really fills out the ankle and the side heels and the bottom of the heel. And then see if you can feel the bones in your lower leg and how they fill out the leg with the muscles, attach into the knee, where all the cartilage around the knee is softening. And then you've got that large femur bone in the thighs, and see if you can feel that bone softening around the knee and then softening into the thigh socket, into the pelvic girdle. And then see if you can feel that pelvic girdle and that there's space between the bones in the pelvic girdle, in the tailbone, in the front of the pelvis, and the side of the pelvis. And then see if you can feel the whole spine as it moves up, and your rib cage bones circle around to the front. They soften. And then as you come up further on the spine, those shoulder blades soften. And then in front of the shoulder girdle is the collarbones that widen out. So that large bone in the forearm can soften and lengthen from the shoulder girdle down to the elbow. The cartilage in the elbow can soften. And then the two bones in the forearm can soften in from the elbow down into the wrist. And all those little wrist bones are softening. And all the hand and finger bones are spacious and in that natural curve. And then the upper part of the spine, your neck, has that natural curve where I showed you, you could put that door stopper underneath it. You can always roll a washcloth and put it underneath your head as well, underneath your neck or right at the base of your head. And then see if you can feel the bones at the base of your head softening. The bones around your skull begin to soften. Bones in the face, the cartilage in the nose, cheekbones, the cartilage in the ears, especially that jawbone, which is very strong. See if you can really soften in the jaw down to the chin. And again, you are the one that you are waiting for. You are the one who you are waiting for. And then slowly begin to deepen your breath. You can find a little bit of movement in your fingers and toes and hands and feet. You can stretch through the body if you need a long stretch. And then slowly rolling to the side. So you can keep that same feeling of Shavasana without abruptly bringing that head up. So just really slowly unwind the spine so that the head just rests on the top, so that you don't immediately go into your to-do list. And thank you for being here. And namaste, and have a beautiful day. And you are the one that you are waiting for.